The Handkerchief by Great 78. Chapter 83. The Creevey Conundrum. They apparated into an alley behind a hotel on the outskirts of Liverpool. It took them only a few minutes to locate the Creevey apartment. It was a small, neat building, but everything was very close together and a bit run down. It reminded Draco of a much cleaner and cared-for version of Spinner's Inn. The Creeveys were extraordinarily polite and curious to hear what they had to say. Unlike Claire, Colin had kept his parents informed about the issues facing the wizarding world.
"So, you say Cole and Denny are on a list, and they're looking for them?"
Mr. Creevey, a mild-mannered man in a crisp white work uniform, asked Draco. Mr. Creevey had been welcoming and friendly from the start. Draco was pleased to know that, for once, his reputation didn't precede him. "Yes, and you'll need to leave the country to stay safe," Hermione answered.
"Hermione is the smartest person in school, Dad," said Dennis. "If she says we should go, I think we should, even if this guy," he jerked his head at Draco, "is with her."
Dennis gave him a calculating look, as if trying to suss out his game. Perhaps his reputation did precede him, a little bit.
"If there's any way that I can make this happen, help your family out financially, I'm happy to do it. Just tell me where you want to go. I can give you money for transportation, a new home, living expenses, whatever you need."
Draco looked Mr. Creevey in the eye.
"We just want you to be safe." "Oh, no, we can never accept that," Mr. Creevey said, and his wife nodded her agreement vigorously.
"We can go stay with my sister's family in Limerick," Mrs. Creevey chimed in.
"She's always asking us to come visit, but you're usually so busy working, Hubert. Now's our chance. It'll be like a holiday. We never get to go on holiday."
"That's true," Mr. Creevey replied thoughtfully. "A few weeks away might be nice."
"No," Hermione interjected emphatically. "Mr. Creevey, this would need to be a much longer relocation. Possibly years. Possibly forever. And to be honest, I'm not certain that Ireland is far enough away. Would you be willing to go to, say, Portugal, Canada?"
Mr. Creevey looked at her as though she had lost her mind. "I can't just leave my business, my customers. They expect their deliveries on time. It's not just delivering milk. Half my customers are quite elderly and can't get out to do their own shopping anymore. Who would take over my route?"
"Mr. Creevey, do you know who Harry Potter is?"
Draco asked quietly. "Oh, yes. Both Cole and Denny talk about him quite a bit. A wonderful boy. Seems like such a nice fellow."
"Do you know his history?" Draco pressed.
A bit, yes."
Mr. Creevey seemed slightly uncomfortable at this turn in the line of questioning.
"His parents were quite young when they died. Only 21, isn't that right, Hermione?"
Draco asked. She nodded. "They were two powerful, well-trained wizards against one wizard, and they were killed in the blink of an eye." Draco snapped his fingers, and Mr. Creevey jumped a bit at the sound.
"And do you know why they died, sir?"
The old man shook his head slightly. No.
"They died trying to protect their baby. Their 1-year-old child. A baby who could barely walk, much less talk. A little baby, that's who Voldemort is there to kill. And he didn't care who got in his way. He didn't care how sick and depraved it was to kill an innocent baby."
Mr. Creevey looked away uncomfortably, whilst his wife dabbed at her eyes. Hermione continued. "Mr. Creevey, we know you want to protect your wife and sons, just like the Potters wanted to protect Harry. But, sir, it's not a single wizard coming. It's 3, at least. And if Voldemort himself shows up, even if you had a gun, this man cannot be killed. Not right now. The only way to truly save your family is to go very, very far away. Not just Ireland for a few weeks. Go to Connecticut, Calcutta, China, anywhere but here in his sphere of influence. And please, stay there and keep your family safe."
"And take my money, I'm begging you. It's—" Draco swallowed the lump in his throat. "It's partly my fault that this man is here, that he's this powerful, that he's back where he is. If someone can use my money to get free of him, it'll make me feel like I did something to stop him."
The elder Creeveys looked at each other. She nodded, then he did too. "We'll go. We have old friends that moved to North Carolina years ago. We'll go there. They can help us get settled." Mrs. Creevey's words became more certain as she spoke. "Let us help you get citizenship papers, green cards, visas, whatever you need. I know people who know people in MACUSA. That's the American version of our Ministry of Magic. They can help with that," Hermione offered.
Hubert Creevey sighed. "We'll accept that offer, but as for money, absolutely not. I've never accepted a handout before. I'm not starting now."
Draco lowered his head.
"I understand, sir. And thank you. Thank you for keeping your family safe."
Safe from me, he thought painfully.
"If it's all right, we're going to show Colin and Dennis a few packing and unpacking methods to use to box up your household items quickly," Hermione said to their parents. "And here, this is my home telephone number. My family will also go into hiding, but I'm leaving my home phone number connected so that I can communicate with anyone who needs to get in touch. Just leave a message. I might not be able to check it often, but please let me know how to contact you when this is all over."
The Creeveys nodded their thanks, and the 4 Hogwarts students walked down the short hall to the boys' cramped bedroom. Hermione showed Dennis the shrinking and packing charms, as well as an undetectable extension charm for their suitcases. Meanwhile, Draco cast a muffliato so that the couple in the next room couldn't overhear. He pulled Colin to the side, pressing an envelope to his chest.
"I need you to take this. Your family needs this." "Is it money? Because if I give that to my father, he's going to move heaven and earth to give it back to you. He once drove 2 hours each way because a waitress undercharged him for a 3-quid ploughman's lunch at a pub."
Draco exhaled heavily. "What the fuck is it with these Gryffindors?" he asked Hermione.
"That's okay, Colin, we understand."
Hermione smiled at him, patting his arm.
"Now, can you just walk me through where you'll need to go today to make this all happen?"
Well," Colin scratched the back of his head and thought, "I guess we'll finish packing here and then get on the phone to a travel agent and book tickets to America. We'll need to stop by Barclays, I suppose, get some money to travel with, then catch a bus to the airport."
"Okay, good. That sounds like a good plan, Colin. Just please go as quickly as you can. And, Colin, Dennis, you need to get enrolled at Ilvermorny or Pellington. Don't neglect your education," Hermione reminded them.
They departed with a quick word of goodbye to the Creevey parents. Draco took out the large envelope, stuffed full of £100 notes.
"Do you think if I sent them this money by owl, they'll—"
"There's no need. There's a Barclays Bank about 5 minutes' walk from here. A quick deposit in Hubert Creevey's account, and there's no way he will be able to return it."
Bank deposit made, they apparated back to Hermione's house. "Something you said back there. Can you explain it more?" Draco asked thoughtfully.
"Sure," she said, bustling around the kitchen to fix a pot of tea, whilst Draco assembled a couple of sandwiches for lunch, occasionally dropping a bit of meat for Crookshanks, who wound between his legs.
"You said something about how, even if Voldemort showed up to the Creeveys' house, he couldn't be killed. Right now. What did you mean by that?"
She stilled, looking up into the cabinet, face turned away from him. I can't talk about it."
Draco took a deep, steadying breath. "Just answer me this. If this mission of Potter's is successful, if you go and search for things, and you find them, will he be able to be killed?"
Dumbledore thought so. We think so."
Draco sat dazedly, feeling almost lightheaded. There was a plan. Well, something of a plan. A goal. This. All of this. Hiding Muggleborns, creating false memories, his dark mark, Dumbledore's death. It might not all be for naught. Up until now, Draco had felt blind, just like that night in the forest after the World Cup, running scared in the dark, waiting, hoping, silently pleading for good fortune to go his way. Knowing there was a plan, an idea, a way forward, it made him feel more at ease than he had in some time, with the exception of a few brief moments he'd shared with his witch.
"I'm sorry I can't tell you more."
She bit her bottom lip worriedly. He stood to embrace her. "No! Merlin, witch! After everything I kept from you last year! No, it's just what you've told me. It isn't much, but it's the first real bit of good news I've gotten in all of this. There might be a way out of this, after all."
He kissed her tenderly, lovingly.
If Lord Voldemort met his match going up against a half-blood orphan, a muggle-born, and an absolute wanker, that would be the best, most fitting outcome he could think of. Back in his suite, he took up his glass of potion-laced fire whiskey again, sitting to face the 3 sleeping men. Innovate. They began to stir. "So, here's hoping the mission today is a success. Now, let's go over who we're checking in on today." "Damn all to hell!" Nott used his wand to set fire to a stuffed toy bear left in the foyer of the Moffat home. "We must have just missed them. How are they staying one step ahead of us?" "Prophet's been riling people up for months," Caro mused. "Might have tipped him over the edge like." "That's true," Draco agreed readily. It was their second stop. The group had thoroughly enjoyed Justin's house, throwing the billiards balls through the huge glass windows overlooking the garden, pissing in the pool, and setting fire to the furniture. Draco had occupied himself by eating a third of the contents left in the pantry. He had no idea such delectable things came in metal cylinders, of all things. Now they stood in Claire's house, a disappointment after the Finch-Fletchley mansion. A coin warmed in his pocket. If this was Blaise or Theo, it was poor timing, but in case it was Snape, he needed to check. "Be right back. Gotta visit the John," Draco said to the group. "Don't leave without me." "Smear it on the walls while you're there!" Caro's cackle was joined by the other 2 as he blasted knickknacks off of a shelf. Draco wrinkled his nose in disgust. What the fuck was wrong with these people? In the lab, he checked his coins. The message from Snape read, "V summoned me. Cannot meet at Willingham House today. Friday." Fuck. Fuck. What now? The team expected to go to 3 houses today. They still had plenty of time left in the afternoon. It would be odd for him to cancel the plans abruptly. Odd enough that they might think to report that to Voldemort. Could he fake an illness? He didn't think they'd care. They'd likely decide to go on without him. They only had the Tonks, Grangers, Willinghams, and Creeveys left. They had met with the Tonks. Hermione's parents were closing up their practice today, planning to leave tomorrow at earliest. The Willingham boy was the false memory. The team knew that the next house had only 1 wizard. It might seem odd for them to change the plans midstream, so that they were going to the house with 2, but it was their only option. The Creeveys would need to be today, and Willingham on Friday. Fuck. He needed a plan. He removed his handkerchief and breathed the password quickly. "Snape cancelled. Can't do Willingham memory thing today. We have to go to the Creevey house. Can you apparate there? Make sure they're out."
"Yes, going now."
Draco leaned his forehead on the back of the door. Nothing could go entirely to plan, it seemed. Upon his exit from the Moffat lavatory, he was disgusted to find that the wizards had smeared food all over the walls, writing anti-Muggle slurs on everything in sight. He supposed that he was glad that nature hadn't called to any of them whilst he was gone. As they left, his pocket warmed. He faked a coughing fit to say the password, then mopped his brow, taking his time to fold the handkerchief to read it.
"Mr. Creevey upset because the bank called about a large deposit. He wants to leave family at home whilst he goes to the bank to withdraw it and give it to me. And Mrs. Creevey wants to say goodbye to some neighbours that aren't home from work yet."
Draco faked a sneeze, then wiped at his nose in order to say, "Get them the fuck out of that house. I might be able to distract the team for a few more minutes, but I can't stall forever." "We're going to the last place, Gov. You said it was a boy, Mudblood, didn't it?" Caro asked, hocking up a giant loogie and spitting it onto the pavement. Draco struggled to keep a neutral expression, then spotted a sign over Caro's shoulder. Inspiration struck. "It's 2 wizards. Brothers, actually. You know, we've got a little time. You blokes ever had curry before?"
Chapter 84. Meet the Parents, Part 2. 45 minutes later, Pettigrew and Caro looked ready to doze off at the table at the Indian restaurant they'd stopped in. Large platters that had held all manner of chicken, lamb, veg, rice, and naan were scattered about. Hermione had messaged several minutes before saying that Hubert was back from the bank, but that she had refused the money, telling him point-blank that if he gave it to her she would set it on fire. The rest of the family had finally convinced him to give up on it, and just keep the money, that he could repay it later if he insisted, but to consider it as a compensation from the wizarding world for having to give up his normal life. Mrs. Creevey had finally gotten to say her goodbyes to the neighbours, and they were leaving in 15 minutes. He wrote back, "Good. Make it 5. It was all he could say without attracting too much attention to himself. "Time to get a move on," slurred Knot over his belch. Draco surmised that he must be carrying a flask to stay this drunk. "I'll get the check," Draco said, making as though to raise his hand at the friendly waiter who had been eyeing him the entire meal. "What for?" Knot asked imperiously, throwing his cloth napkin into a bowl of orange-coloured sauce. "Just confound that fool into thinking you already paid, and let's go." "You're right," Draco murmured, uttering a distraction charm that sent the waiter in a different direction. He surreptitiously left 200-pound notes on the table under his plate, and they swept from their nearly empty dining room. They popped into existence in the dingy alley behind the hotel near Liverpool. It was about a 10-minute walk to the Creevey residence, and Draco was thankful once again for the idea of having a meal. The other 3 wizards walked much slower than before, now that they were full. He withdrew his handkerchief from his pocket and coughed. "Out." "You got some kind of illness or something? Been around all these muggles?" Caro asked suspiciously. "What do you mean?" Draco asked. "You keep coughing and blowing your nose." "I guess so," Draco answered. The handkerchief spelled out, "Yes." Relief washed over him, and his pace picked up a bit. He wanted to be shot of this whole day as soon as possible. As they rounded the corner, they nearly ran into a group of 5 people hurrying in the opposite direction. Draco's eyes widened, and his heart stopped as he recognized the group. Hermione also looked shocked, and Draco saw the look of recognition on the faces of Colin and Dennis. Draco turned back to his team, which had kept walking with the exception of Pettigrew. He alone recognized Hermione, and possibly Colin and Dennis as well, from his time in Gryffindor Tower as Scabbers. Draco locked eyes with him, and suddenly he knew that Pettigrew knew. Pettigrew seemed to be fumbling in his muggle trousers pocket for his wand. The other 2 wizards' backs were still turned, walking down the street. Draco raised his right hand, wand slipping down a bit from his sleeve holster. "Obliviate," he said firmly, erasing the last minute or so from the short wizard's mind. Pettigrew's eyes slid out of focus, and he stumbled a bit. "All right there, mate." Draco reached out a steadying hand to right the wizard. "Oh, yes, must have just tripped on the pavement," frowned Pettigrew, and they kept going. When Draco chanced to look behind him again, the 5 of them were gone. 30 minutes later, the Creevey apartment was desecrated to the satisfaction of the other 3 wizards. The team apparated back to their homes separately, Draco mentioning that he was going to find some muggle ice cream, seeing as Fortescue's was shut down. He apparated to the trees at Hampstead Heath, and withdrew his handkerchief from his pocket. "At the trees near your house. Meet me when you're done." 10 minutes later, she arrived looking stressed and as though she'd been crying.
They didn't want to leave. They were all upset. Mr. Creevey still didn't want to take the money. His wife didn't want to leave their friends. And Colin and Dennis were angry when they saw you. I had to keep reminding them that you were a double agent.
God, that was so stressful. I don't know how I'm going to do the one with Willingham."
He hugged her tightly around the waist and buried his face in her gardenia-scented hair. "Did Professor Snape give you any explanation as to why he cancelled?" she asked. "He was supposed to meet me this afternoon about my parents."
"He only said that he was summoned by the Dark Lord."
Draco ran his fingers through her hair soothingly.
"Maybe he can meet you later tonight, or tomorrow. I hate to leave you, but I need to go home and speak with my mother. We are supposed to go tomorrow to see her sister and your brother-in-law, and there's a few things I want to talk about with her." He frowned. "Come to think of it, I'm not even sure how we're going to find the Tonks' residence. Do you know where it is?"
"I don't," she said falteringly. I'm not even sure the Order knows."
"Do you know how to get in touch with my cousin, Nymphadora?"
"Tonks? Gosh, I don't, actually. Since we're no longer using Grimmauld Place as headquarters, I'm really not sure how to contact anyone in the Order at all. I'm not even sure if Harry or Ron do, either."
Hermione seemed perplexed by this problem.
Surely they had discussed this, thought Draco. But evidently not. Or at least no one had thought to loop in the Chosen One, the brightest witch of her age, and the Ginger Newt. Draco apparated back to Malfoy Manor just before dinner, directly into his room so as to change out of his Muggle ensemble. There were several Death Eaters, and even a few of their wives, Voldemort and Peter, both Carrows, plus Bellatrix and Rudolphus, in attendance at dinner. Draco was a bit surprised to see Snape there. Snape seldom stayed for meals after meeting with the Dark Lord. When dinner was concluded, everyone except Narcissa and the other wives were expected to stay. Discussion went from reasoned to raucous within minutes. Lucius and McNair appeared to be having a drinking contest, to see who could consume the most fire whiskey in a short span of time. Lucius was winning. After about 20 minutes, Draco moved to the edge of the room and tried to fade into the exits. He was unsurprised, however, when he heard a familiar swishing sound behind him. "Hello, Professor," Draco said quietly as he turned. "Your legitimacy is improving greatly, Draco," Snape said, impressed. "Your robes gave it away." "I see." Snape cleared his throat. "Please, apologize to our mutual acquaintance on my behalf. I had intended to meet them, but was delayed setting off. Perhaps now might be a better time?" "I'll find out." He stepped into a nearby lavatory, took out his handkerchief, and spoke the password.
"Vinca Major." "Snape would like to know if you can meet now. I need to go and see my mother, but he can meet you at Hampstead Heath in 10 minutes.
30 seconds passed, then she replied, "Yes, that should be fine. My parents are taking a bit of a break from the stress of packing. I will tell them I'm going for a walk."
"Granger," he said, folding the handkerchief. He stepped back out into the hallway and nodded, whispering, "Hampstead Heath cricket pitch."
Snape nodded and strode away to the front doors to get outside of the ancient bonds of the house in order to apparate, as only Malfoys by blood or marriage were able to apparate directly into and out of the manor. Draco found Narcissa in the ladies' suite, brushing her hair. "My dragon! I'm so glad that you could come and visit me. It's been dreadfully lonely, and those ladies tonight—"
She shuddered now to show her disapproval of them. "Mum, I have a couple of urgent things to talk with you about."
"One moment, Draco." She began placing wards around the room, muffling charms, silencing spells, intruder alerts, and more. Then she nodded her go-ahead to Draco.
"First, the other day, Theo's father told me about what happened with Florian Fortescue. Apparently,
He and a couple of others, Jugson and Flint, overheard Fortescue talking, saying positive things about muggles. Narcissa's face clouded as she could tell that the story would not end pleasantly. They took him out into the woods and beat and tortured him. They did not kill him, Draco hurried to say after seeing the pained look on her face. They did, however, obliviate him. They erased his memory and knowledge of magic, and left him there in the woods. I don't know what happened after that, but Nott said he was still alive when they left.
To his surprise, Narcissa sighed a great sigh of relief. Oh, thank the heavens! That's wonderful!
But he doesn't know he's a wizard, and he's lost his memories, who he was.
But inside, he's still Florian, don't you see? He may never come back, but he's still out there, and that is a better outcome than I had feared.
Draco was happy that she could see the silver lining in the situation. He was not certain that he would have taken it so well, had the roles been changed, and it was Hermione out in those woods.
So, what else did you wish to discuss, my dragon?
He recollected his thoughts. As you know, I've been given an assignment to hunt down Muggleborns. I gave advance warning to all the ones on my list, and they've all left the country, or preparing to, except for one. It's Ted Tonks. I don't really have a way to get in touch with him, other than Owl, I suppose.
Yes, I heard from Andrew that you and, Miss Granger had hoped to stop by. It's good that you came to me, then. I can help you with that.
The next morning at breakfast, Narcissa was chipper and excited as she ate with her sister, husband, and son. Her good humour was in particularly sharp contrast to Bellatrix's foul mood. The Dark Witch was nursing a bad case of the shakes, courtesy of a particularly harsh Crucio session from Voldemort. Apparently, several Death Eaters had been tasked to look into Potter's movement from his family home to an Order safe house once Scarface turned 17. Bellatrix had promised the Dark Lord that she would be able to figure out the plan, but had so far failed in doing so.
"And where are you and Neffy Whittle off to this morning, sissy?"
Bellatrix struggled to keep her jittering eyes focused on her sister.
"Just picking up a few gardening supplies, and perhaps some new shoes,"
Narcissa answered. "Should I send a message to Gringotts to expect you and Draco?" Lucius stirred himself from his fire-whiskey with a splash of coffee.
"No need, darling. We'll be in the Muggle shops today. I'll take some pounds from the Manor Vault."
"I can't imagine wanting to be around those filthy Muggles, sissy. Merlin, the smell of them just makes me gag. And they're so unintelligent. They sound like Cornish pixies when they talk. Plus the horrid food they eat."
Bellatrix prattled on unintelligibly for several more minutes, whilst Lucius struggled to stay focused on the discussion. Draco and Narcissa shared a smile over their teacups. Once back in Narcissa's suite, she checked her hair and makeup charms again out of nervousness.
"Do I look all right, dear?"
"Of course, Mum. Why are you so nervous? You've been to your sister's house before, right?" Draco asked.
"Yes, but this is the first time I'm meeting your girlfriend. I know we've been in the same room together."
Her gaze faltered as she was likely remembering the encounter at Madame Malkin's last summer.
"But this is the first time that both she and I will be able to acknowledge each other for who we are, if that makes any sense."
Draco, who had spent the entirety of his teens in a clandestine relationship with a witch who was his complete opposite, and yet entirely, no, more than his equal, understood completely. "It's okay, Mom. Ma knew that we had Pettigrew with us that time in the shops. She knows that you know about us."
Narcissa gave a wavering smile and patted his hand. "You call her my? That's sweet, my dragon. I used to call Florian Fort." She gave a small sniffle and looked away.
"Mum, When this is all over, perhaps we can contact the Muggle authorities. It can't be every day that a man wanders out of the forest with no memories, right? Perhaps they know where to find him, and we can—"
"No, Draco, it's probably for the best. Your father is my husband, and no childhood romance can undo that. Knowing Fort, he adapted quickly and is running his own business out there now. He was always good at unexpected things, you know? Potions, history, languages, arithmancy, whatever. He landed on his feet, I'm certain."
She dabbed at her eyes and smiled more confidently at him.
"I cannot let the past rule the future, but you have a chance to change your future before it's written for you, my darling. Learn from my mistakes."
She picked up her small handbag.
"Come on, let's go meet your witch."
They apparated into Hampstead Heath to find Hermione seated on a nearby rock, waiting nervously for them. At their appearance she stood, folding her hands in front of herself defensively. Narcissa made the first move. She walked hesitantly to the younger witch and held out a hand to Hermione.
"Miss Granger, I'm so pleased to finally be able to speak to you openly. I've heard many good things about you from Draco and from others. It's a true pleasure to make your formal acquaintance."
Hermione looked taken aback for only a moment before her own good manners took over.
"Mrs. Malfoy, it's quite an honor to properly meet you. Your sister has spoken highly of you, and I'm happy to meet the woman who raised Draco."
Narcissa looked away, shamefaced.
"I am afraid that, with the way that pure-blood traditionalists rear their children, I did not have as much hand in his upbringing as I would have liked. But I'm glad to see that whatever influences he had have been the right ones, instead of the wrong."
She took a deep breath.
"I also wish to apologize for my behavior last summer in Melamorkins. I know that Draco told you that we had Peter with us, but I was under a lot of stress as well. My sister had just moved in with us, and with Lucius gone and Draco returning to the school with that thing on his arm and that mission looming over him, I was worried about so many things. I should not have spoken so angrily, especially at the Potter boy. What with the... well, suffice to say, I should not have said it. It's all right, Mrs. Malfoy. It is not. It was not all right. And please, call me Narcissa. The fact of the matter is, I knew the Potter boy's parents in school. Only in passing, of course. They were a few years younger than me. But I will say I always thought of Lily as a kind girl, willing to be friendly with everyone, very smart and outspoken. I recall thinking that if times were different, if we'd been born in different circumstances, we might have been friends. I was saddened to hear of her and her husband's deaths."
Both Draco and Hermione stood in shocked silence for a moment. Narcissa wiped at her eyes and clasped her hands together.
"Well, enough sad things for one day. Shall we go meet my sister and her husband?"
Thank you for listening to this chapter of The Handkerchief by Great 78.